Bravo Base was a fortress of order and protocol, a military installation where every action had a purpose, and every rank was meticulously observed. It was a place of high fences, drone patrols, and the constant rhythmic churn of well-oiled machinery. The air, even in the temperate climate of the Pacific Northwest, was sharp with the scent of discipline and duty. For the thousands of soldiers, pilots, and intelligence officers who lived and worked there, the salute wasn't just a gesture. It was the foundation of their world, a visible symbol of respect and the chain of command. It was into this world that Dr. Anaya Sharma arrived. She was a ghost in their machine, a civilian anomaly in a sea of military precision. With her faded denim jeans, a worn-out flannel shirt, and a pair of scuffed hiking boots, she looked less like a brilliant bioengineer and more like a tourist who had taken a wrong turn. Her workspace was a heavily fortified and windowless lab buried deep beneath the base, a place she rarely left except to grab coffee or a breath of fresh air. And in her world, the salute held no meaning. She was a woman of equations, schematics, and biothermodynamics, not rank and ceremony. She saw men and women in uniform, but she didn't see officers or enlisted. She saw people, and to her, a nod was just as good as a full-throated good morning. This was a profound offense to the rigid culture of Bravo Base. For the first few weeks, the soldiers mostly ignored her, a strange civilian on the fringes. But as time went on, her presence became a source of simmering frustration. The tipping point came with Captain Marcus Thorne, a man in his early 30s with a ramrod straight back and a chest full of medals. Thorne embodied the base's uncompromising spirit. He had a reputation for being a stickler for the rules, and he saw Anaya's lack of saluting as a direct affront to the uniform he wore with such pride. He'd tried to subtly correct her at first, offering a sharp, expectant salute as he passed her in the mess hall. She'd responded with a polite, but completely civilian smile, and a slight tilt of her head. He had fumed internally. The incident that broke the camel's back happened on a crisp Tuesday morning. Anaya, bleary-eyed from a long night of debugging a complex simulation, was walking to her lab with a travel mug in one hand and a stack of printouts in the other. She was deep in thought, 100 different complex calculations running through her mind, when she passed Captain Thorne. He was standing with 2 junior lieutenants, his posture radiating authority. He saw her coming, and with a purposeful air, offered a perfect, textbook salute. Anaya, lost in her thoughts, looked up and gave him a distracted, friendly wave with her free hand. Thorne's face turned a shade of crimson. "Dr. Sharma," he barked, his voice echoing in the hallway. "A word, please." Anaya stopped, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Is everything all right, Captain?" "No, Dr. Sharma, everything is not all right," he said, stepping toward her with an icy glare. His 2 lieutenants stood at attention, watching with barely concealed satisfaction. "Do you know what a salute is for?" Anaya, still clutching her coffee, blinked at him. "I believe it's a sign of respect and military courtesy, yes." "Then why do you continuously fail to render one to myself and other commissioned officers on this base?" he demanded, his voice low and sharp with barely controlled anger. "Do you think you are above the rules, Dr. Sharma? Do you not respect the men and women who serve this nation?" Anaya felt her cheeks flush. She wasn't used to confrontation, and the hostility in his voice was a physical blow. "Captain, I'm sorry if I've caused offense. I'm a civilian. I've been told the protocol doesn't apply to me. I do respect everyone here. I don't see the need for the gesture. The need for the gesture is what holds this entire institution together, Thorne snapped. It's what separates us from chaos. You will salute commissioned officers on this base, or I will have you written up for insubordination and escorted off the premises. He wasn't bluffing. Anaya knew her presence on the base was a privilege, not a right. She felt a wave of frustration wash over her. She worked 12-hour days in a bunker, solving problems that most of the base's population couldn't even comprehend. And she was being threatened with expulsion over a handshake versus a salute. With a sigh of defeat, she put down her coffee mug and the papers, stood up straight, and gave him a clumsy, hesitant salute. It was all wrong. Her wrist bent awkwardly, her fingers not quite straight. Thorne looked at her in disgust. "That's pathetic," he said, shaking his head. "You are an embarrassment. Now get out of my sight." Anaya, her heart pounding, snatched her things and hurried away, the words pathetic and embarrassment stinging in her ears. The two lieutenants smirked at Thorne, a silent agreement that the civilian had been put in her place. Later that day, the entire base was plunged into a state of high alert. A critical failure had occurred in the base's biological containment lab, a place where Anaya's work was central. The etheric shields, a new, highly experimental form of quantum entanglement security she had designed, had failed catastrophically. The lab was now on lockdown, a dangerous airborne pathogen threatening to leak into the base's ventilation system. Alarms blared, red lights flashed, and the calm order of the base evaporated into a controlled panic. Captain Thorne was in the command center, coordinating a perimeter lockdown. He was in his element, barking orders, his voice clear and authoritative over the radio. But he and the other officers were at a loss. The containment system was Anaya's. She was the only one who understood its intricate, theoretical underpinnings. The engineers could see the problem, but they couldn't fix it. The failsafes had failed. The situation was spiraling out of control. Anaya, meanwhile, was in her lab, the deep subterranean bunker vibrating with the alarm. She was not panicking. Her mind was a whirlwind of calculations, tracing the quantum feedback loops and the ripple effects of the failure. She had a solution, a high-risk, high-reward override that could force the shields back online. But it required an intimate knowledge of the system that only she possessed. The engineers were trying a different approach, a slower, more methodical one, but she knew it would be too late. The pathogen would be airborne in a matter of minutes. She finally emerged from her lab, still in her jeans and flannel, and ran towards the command center. She was a blur of focused energy, her hair coming loose from its ponytail, her face smudged with what looked like grease. She barely noticed the frantic activity around her. As she entered the command center, Captain Thorne spotted her. "Dr. Sharma," he yelled. "Where have you been? We need you in the containment lab. Our engineers are working on a solution." Anaya cut him off, her voice calm but firm. "They won't get it in time, Captain. The primary cascade has already begun. I know the override. I need a direct link to the central power conduit, and I need a security pass to the sub-level utility tunnels, now." Thorne hesitated. "A security pass? Dr. Sharma, I don't have the authority." Just then, a voice, deep and resonant, cut through the tension. "I do, Captain, and I will." General Harrison, a man with more stars on his collar than a clear night sky, strode into the command center. He was a legend in the armed forces, a man who had commanded theaters of war and shaped policy for decades. He was an intimidating presence, and the entire room fell silent. Thorne immediately snapped to attention. "General Sir, we have a breach in the containment lab. We are working on a solution, but Dr. Sharma, our civilian consultant, is being difficult." The general's gaze, sharp and piercing, went past Thorne and landed on Anaya. He didn't look at her jeans or her messy hair. He looked at her eyes, at the fierce, intelligent determination that burned within them. He saw not a civilian, but a warrior of a different kind. "Anaya," he said, his voice dropping to a lower, more intimate tone. "How bad is it?" "It's bad, General," she said, her voice clear and without a hint of fear. "But I can fix it. I just need a direct line to the main power nexus. It's a manual override, and it will require my biometrics to initiate." Thorne, his face a mask of confusion, tried to interject. "Sir, she needs a security pass for that." "I can't authorize that without clearance from the general," raised a hand, silencing him. He looked at Anaya, then at the stunned faces of the soldiers and officers in the room. He didn't offer a smile, but a glint of respect shone in his eyes. Then, in a moment that would be talked about for years, General Harrison, a man who had earned his stars through a lifetime of service and sacrifice, slowly, deliberately, and with the utmost respect, raised his hand to his brow and rendered a perfect, flawless salute to Dr. Anaya Sharma. The room froze. The lieutenants, Captain Thorne, the radio operators, every single person in the command center stood in a state of suspended disbelief. "You have my clearance, Dr. Sharma," the general said, his voice ringing with authority, "and you have my respect. Get to work." The general then turned to Captain Thorne, his gaze now an unyielding stone. "Captain, I believe Dr. Sharma requested a security pass. You will personally escort her to the utility tunnels and ensure she has everything she needs, now." Thorne, his face pale, saluted the general and then, with a humbling sense of professional duty, moved to stand next to Anaya. The general's salute had been a public, unmistakable message. This civilian, this woman in the flannel shirt who didn't salute, held a rank that was not visible on any uniform. Her authority was not granted by the military, but by her singular genius. Later, after Anaya had successfully averted the disaster with a calm competence that left everyone in awe, General Harrison pulled Captain Thorne aside. "Captain," he began, his voice low, "do you know who Dr. Sharma is? She's not just a bioengineer, she's the head of the National Biosecurity Defense Initiative. She's not here on a consultation. She's here on a top-secret mission to oversee the implementation of the new etheric shield technology. The salute you owe her is not a matter of military courtesy. It's a matter of national security." Thorne looked at the general, a deep sense of shame washing over him. I understand, sir, I was wrong." "Yes," the general said simply, "you were." From that day on, the atmosphere at Bravo Base changed. When Anaya Sharma walked through the halls, she still didn't salute. But now, when officers passed her, they were the ones who offered a respectful nod. Captain Thorne, in particular, made it a point to give her a silent, deferential nod whenever he saw her. He had learned a hard and unforgettable lesson. Rank wasn't always measured in stars or stripes, and the most important people weren't always the ones in uniform. Anaya Sharma was just a bioengineer. But at Bravo Base, She was now the most respected one of all. And the salute, for the first time, had been completely reversed.